Hi everyone, and welcome to Making It on Monday. This is a weekly workshop for mums in the making. So people like you who are trying to conceive. So we do a weekly workshop on a whole range of topics that are designed to kind of help and support you on your fertility journey. Making It on Monday is brought to you by the Acupuncture Pregnancy Clinic, and we're a niche clinic dedicated to reproductive health, IVF support, and also pregnancy. So I'm your host today, and for those who don't know me, my name is Amy Forth. I'm the director at the Acupuncture Pregnancy Clinic, and I have been practicing and in service to people who are trying to start a family, and also through their pregnancy care since 2008. I'm a Chinese medicine practitioner, and today we have a special guest who I'm going to introduce in just a moment. But today we're talking all about what is a prenatal supplement and what is a good one and what makes a bad one, and how do you pick, like, how do you know if it's a good one or a bad one? If you're just starting your fertility journey or you've been on it for a while, you might be wanting to do a bit of a review and look at what is the prenatal supplement you're currently taking, and is it a good one? Is it doing everything you need to really support your fertility? So has it got all the nutrients it needs to support both fertility and also pregnancy? And so today I am pretty excited to have a really special guest, Amanda Haberecht, who is an expert naturopath and nutritionist in the fertility space. She has been around for 25 years. She spent 10 years at the Joslin Centre working with Francesca Naish, and she's now the director of the Darling Street Health. She's a fantastic naturopath. She works very integratively. She does lots of testing. And I haven't even mentioned, but she's also been a key person in the creation of a prenatal supplement called Iodine. So I thought she's the absolute perfect person to come on and talk to us a little bit about what makes a really good supplement, what is really essential for your fertility, and why it's important to have a good prenatal, and what is a bad one. So we're going to welcome Amanda. Hi, Amanda. Thanks for coming on today.
Hi, and hi to everybody there. Thank you for everybody who's listening in today.
Yeah, we've got a few people who are coming on live, and they can ask questions. And if you're watching the recording, you can also ask questions and we'll get back to you. But thanks to Amanda for joining us today. And I guess to start off with, you know so much about nutrition, so I know you could talk all day, literally, about what makes a good supplement, because it's something you're so passionate about. But for our listeners today, I was wondering if you can kind of distill what you think are those kind of key takeaways. What makes a good one?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I mean, I suppose I have to kind of initially preface it with that, even though that we recommend a good kind of prenatal for everybody, we always, and like you and I would agree that, our medicine is kind of personalized. So we always have to kind of take into account that person's particular background, how long they've been trying to conceive, any kind of pre-existing issues like thyroid disease, endometriosis, polycystic ovaries, lots of IVF. So but you want to be making sure that you have a very good foundational supplement underneath you, and to personalize any kind of nutritional advice on top of that. But I suppose what makes, and as you introduced, when you introduced me, Amy, that I am in the formulating kind of space as well. And what was so intriguing to me was actually how much you could fit into a supplement. I mean, having said that, a lot of people complain about how big the MyGen tablets are at the moment, but it was also because I was really excited to see actually how much you could fit in therapeutically into a supplement. And if you look at a lot of those prenatals or any kind of multi mineral vitamin supplements out there, that some of them are very kind of like empty on the ground. So it's really important that you're looking at a very kind of comprehensive supplement with adequate
what's in there. it's not just about what's in there, it's also about the dose, and that being like therapeutic. And some of the supplements, as I understand, aren't always in that kind of therapeutic range where you're really getting some good bang for buck.
Yeah, to actually have a therapeutic impact. And there's one thing just to put it on the label, but there's another thing for it to actually have a therapeutic impact. And so that was kind of, when I moved from the clinician space of prescribing to the kind of formulating space, that was kind of really insightful for me. But, for the average couple out there who are trying to conceive, I mean, obviously they don't have that kind of information, but I would definitely recommend that you do a comparison of how much some of those kind of key nutrients are. Yeah. And, a lot of people have got the kind of, understanding that, folate, for example, is kind of crucial to healthy DNA and healthy kind of sperm and egg development. But it needs the other B vitamins alongside it to really kind of ensure its absorption. So folate just as a standalone, or folate with a couple of other nutrients, often it can look good on the label how much is there, but it's also whether those cofactors are also in the formulation, kind of really enhances absorption.
Yeah, so it's kind of so you want to look for something which has got folate and it's got some Bs alongside it to enhance absorption. So that's point number one. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of the other B.
What sort of dosage are you looking at? Because I know with folate, people really, they're anxious that they've got the right amount of folate. We know it's really important. So what sort of dosage would you be suggesting that people have as a minimum?
Yeah, so we definitely say that 500 micrograms should be the minimum. But again, that is always going to be dependent on their history, their age, whether they have genetic mutations on folate pathways, and the availability. And, and it can be really confusing because too much is, not necessarily a good thing. And that if you're having too much of any, so there was a little bit of a, recommendation amongst a lot of kind of clinicians and IVF doctors historically, where they were kind of prescribing very kind of huge levels of folic acid, which is a synthesized, more kind of synthetic form of folate compared to the active forms. But what happens is that could cause, depressions in the absorption of other B vitamins like B12 and B6, which are equally as important for genetic expression.
Yeah. Okay.
You need that B vitamin team. You really need that B vitamin.
You need to be there. So if you're looking for you're just going to the wherever you're going to get your prenatal supplement, and I mean, there's practitioner-only brands and there's non-practitioner-only brands. So some of them you can only get through practitioners, but so it sounds like the key things are kind of like folate, 500 milligrams with a healthy dose of some Bs as well. Yeah.
Micrograms.
Sorry. And then what are the other kind of key essential nutrients you want to be looking at for just someone who's just starting out and they just want to make sure it's ticking those boxes? So when they're looking at that prenatal supplement.
So definitely B12. I always kind of refer to B12 as almost like folate, kind of poor cousin, because B12 is just as important as folate for good, health, genetic amazing tests that they do, into, women's kind of follicular fluid and, uterine fluid, where that we can correlate B12 and folate levels with, best possible outcomes, reduction in miscarriage risk.
Yeah.
And B12 is much more difficult to get in the diet. And so if women are vegetarian or vegans or have gut health issues, they're usually going to have a lot more trouble absorbing B12.
And B12 is important. The Bs are important for stress as well, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. So we all burn them up like way too far. And especially if you're going through IVF or anything, like, that you're going to be under a degree of stress.
Yeah. Well. And this is what I often tell patients, that, they really want to get like a nice dose of their B vitamins in their prenatal, because we want to make sure that they're supporting their, they're supporting that sort of stress response, which, if you're going through IVFs particularly, or even if you're just trying to conceive, fertility can be stressful.
Yeah, and look, I often tell my patients that, the kind of traffic jam might be happening at the ovaries, but it's what's happening at the hypothalamus, pituitary, thyroid, adrenals, which will be affected by stress. So you want your B vitamins just really kind of helping just influence all those upstream pathways as well. But it is also a form of folate, and it's very kind of controversial, but we know that a standard kind of folic acid form there's definitely some emerging evidence that can actually be problematic. So we really kind of urge women and their partners to look for a B vitamin that has a methylated form of folate.
Okay, so a methylated form of folate, which would be, and what would that look like on a label?
So that will either look as like folinic acid or calcium folinate, or it could be called methylene tetrahydrofolate or 5-MTHF. They're all the forms which you'll probably more likely find as part of a nutritional company's formulation.
Sure.
Yeah. B12 the same, like a methylcobalamin form of B12 is the one you want to kind of look out for.
And what sort of dosage are you looking for B12? What do you think is a good dose?
Yeah, like definitely 400 micrograms as well. We're kind of looking there. So yes.
And then there's so many nutrients and so many prenatal supplements, but what would you say are the other kind of key essential ones? If it doesn't have it, you feel like it's just like it's not really worth taking, or it's not really like you want to start looking for another. What are the other kind of real essential key?
So iodine is definitely an essential nutrient without any question. Really.
And why is iodine important?
It's important for all our hormonal tissue. So for the production of ovarian hormones, for our thyroid hormones, for the health of our uterus, we know that iodine deficiency can often be associated with pathologies in any of our kind of hormonal organs as well. But again, it's really important for that early neurological development of babies as well. And also it's especially important in Australia because, World Health Organization has kind of deemed Australia an iodine deficient country. So much more difficult. There was a study not so long ago that found that, 57% of women undergoing IVF were iodine deficient, Amy, so.
57. Wow, that's an enormous amount, isn't it? So iodine's really important. So far we've got, we have folinic acid, B12, Bs, and then iodine. Are there any others that you think are really kind of key?
Absolutely. So choline. So this choline, is the point.
I knew you were going to say choline.
I know choline's the new kid on the block. But
so tell us about choline. What does that do?
Yeah. So choline is it's a phospholipid. So it kind of works similar. It's a bit like a B vitamin / a kind of a fat. But it's basically essential to every kind of cell in your body. There's really good evidence that's showing that it's associated with miscarriage, subfertility, neural tube defects. It's important for, methylation and the availability of, good DNA in our sperm and eggs. And, it's definitely the evidence is emerging, but all the evidence that we're seeing is very, very, affirming. Conceptually and in the first trimester, and again, really easy to be deficient in. There's common genetic mutations on choline pathways, but also very difficult to get adequate amounts actually in our diet. So
we want choline. And how much do we need in our prenatal supplement? What's the dose?
Yeah, so definitely the recommendation, and even the National Health and Medical Research Council has come out and confirmed this as well, that we want at least about kind of 400 milligrams in a supplement. Milligrams. Yeah, when women are breastfeeding, they need more, with the production of breast milk, they need more. So,
Okay. All right. So we've got folinic acid, we've got B12, we've got choline, iodine. Is there anything else that you think? I mean, I know there's so many, but
there's so many. I suppose I would just like to drive home vitamin D. Again, commonly deficient nutrient. 30% of women undergoing IVF will be deficient. Our reproductive organs are littered with vitamin D receptors, whether it's our breast, uterus, ovaries, thyroid. And vitamin D isn't actually a vitamin. It's kind of like a pro-hormone. So all our hormonal pathways cross talk. Yeah. It's like a little train that carries all our hormones around and takes them to their destinations. And hormonal crosstalk is so much more kind of eloquent when we have adequate vitamin D levels there as well. So, and we know that it's associated with deficiencies associated with IVF failure. It is associated with implantation issues. Some nice evidence alongside AMH, women with low AMH, Amy. Vitamin D will kind of help with that cohort of women as well. So.
And I think that's fairly well recognised that vitamin D is really essential for fertility. And if you're getting your vitamin D checked and it's like under 50, where you'd be really kind of
but even
fertility, ideally you want it over 70. Is that right?
Yeah, you kind of want it over 75.
Yeah. So that's a good one to just double check. And we're running out of time. So do we have any other kind of key nutrients that you want to really
and I think the final one that I have to say, and these recommendations are based on what we find are most commonly kind of deficient in women. I think my last one would definitely be zinc. And again, it's commonly necessary for production of FSH, LH, our ovarian hormone, and it kind of catalyzes a lot of the reactions, our hormonal kind of reactions in the body as well. And that we know that our hormonal organs, as far as production of their hormones, work way more kind of efficiently if we've got
and zinc's super essential for male fertility. All of these are really essential for male.
I mean, it's an antioxidant, it's an antioxidant, So
it's not just the woman, the man needs the supplementation as much, because they're sharing half the DNA. So we want to make sure, that half is really well looked after as well.
Yeah, and that's why women should give their partners the same prenatal formula that they're taking as well. Yeah, because it is 50% of the DNA. We know things like zinc is just essential for the motility of sperm and making the race and even kind of meeting the eggs. So
and so important this time of year as well. At the moment, it's winter and everyone's got either COVID or a flu or a cold. It's just rampant. And I think your zinc. That's when your immune system just chews up all that zinc as well. So it's can be kind of like a secondary reason why your fertility is kind of not as turbo boosted as it could be. Nutrition from having.
And for autoimmunity, we know that there's a huge percentage of women so it's a great immunomodulator, as is vitamin D too. So if women have pre-existing kind of autoimmune conditions, thyroid conditions, etc., we know that them being very replete in zinc is necessary. So.
That's so great. So, okay, we don't have very much time left, but I just want to recap on what we've already talked about. And then also I want to find out from you, what are things to look out for that you don't want in your supplement, like things that you want to avoid. So what we've talked about so far is having folinic acid, B vitamin.
Folinic acid or MTHF,
Okay, folinic acid or MTHF. B vitamin, in particular B12, we want a nice 400 dose.
And to be honest, if I'm squeezing extras in B12, folate and B6, they come out kind of kicking together as our kind of powerhouses of genetic expression. So if you've got about 400 micrograms of an active B12, 500 micrograms of folate, as a minimum, that's what you would be wanting to be looking at. With choline, choline.
Iodine.
Iodine. So usually most of the good prenatals have something between 200 to 250 of iodine in there, definitely.
And we've just talked about vitamin D, where we want how many milligrams?
1,000 IUs. Usually the prenatals you can't put much more than 1,000 IUs.
And then finally we just talked about
zinc.
The last one. Zinc.
So,
and what was the dosage?
Like 15 to 25. And look, even antioxidants generally, Amy, our important antioxidants are things like coenzyme Q10, selenium, zinc. You want to try and see that, if we're struggling with reception, you've got to look at those chromosomal and genetic expression nutrients like the B vitamins and folate. and equally the antioxidants, which help with the mitochondria, anti-aging, detoxifying, help with cellular division, that early cellular division.
Great. And what would you avoid? Like, we've only got a few seconds left. What are kind of the key things? If you see it on the label, don't buy it.
It's very controversial, but folic acid as a form of folic, very controversial, and it's just looking at the amounts, because you've got to be a little bit discerning, because they might have like 2 or 3 milligrams.
Like we were talking about before, like it needs to be that therapeutic dose, so you're actually going to be getting something therapeutic out of the nutrition that it's providing.
Absolutely. Great. And that's why even if you go to a good health food store that might have an in-house naturopath there, that would be a good place to start if you're not under the care of a clinician, just for them to really kind of spell out what the forms of those nutrients are.
Great. Well, thank you so much. We are going to have to leave it there. But if you have any questions for Amanda, please leave them in the comments, and we will endeavour to answer any questions and queries. And I want to thank Amanda very much for coming on. If there are any other kind of questions or hot topics that you'd like us to explore on Making It on Mondays, this is a workshop for mums like you in the making. And so just let us know what you'd like us to talk about, and we will try and provide fantastic educational resources. Thanks so much, Amanda.
Total pleasure, Amy. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you. See you.